She made this t-shirt that says, I heart you.
Let's get into the build for today. But let me see. Today we getting into the High Priestess. Yes, we doing the High Priestess. It's a must. Because you need to know you have to tap into your intuition. And we just gonna get into the build. Now, you already know where I'm coming from. Because I already posted the information. So, let's see. Change the nebula up a bit. I like that one better. Because we dealing with the intuition, so we want to be up in those parts of the chakras for the night. Okay. Now, the High Priestess means trust your inner knowing. What do they mean by that? Trusting your inner knowing. First of all, like I said, if you are into manifest or not manifesting rather, but meditation, then you will know exactly what I'm talking about. If you could quiet the mind of the chatter, the rational mind, and just sit back with the subconscious, the little voice that speaks, that be your intuition. It's also known as your gut instincts, or that, dang, I knew I should have did that, or something told me to do that, or something said, that something is your intuition. So it's best to get reacquainted with that, because that was the very thing that got moved out of you as you were growing up in your childlike state. It was like you was born with an intuition and it was working just fine in your childlike state, because you knew you were safe. You knew you weren't in survival mode. You was basically, just living to have fun, play, full of love and creativity. And then, once you got pushed out into the world, then your intuition was no longer able to be connected to, because now the world has taught you to, gather data and facts and use your rational mind. And if it couldn't be proven in black and white, then it was, basically something you shouldn't have been using, because you didn't have enough information to prove to the rational mind itself. And that's what you was being taught, growing up. But I say it's high time for you to tap into your intuition. So what this is what the High Priestess is about. So we getting into that. All right. Let me see. All right. Now getting back into the High Priestess. The High Priestess is a personification of wisdom and inner knowing. If you have ever trusted your gut instincts, then you were trusting her. You know far more than you think you know. To access your instincts and your inner wisdom, you need to push aside the veil of the endlessly chattering, the rational mind. As I was saying earlier, like, the intuition is more of a knowing instead of you being able to see black and white. It's not about what you could see or capture on black and white. It's about that gut instinct. That's what's going to save you. Okay. The High Priestess guards the realm of your deeper feeling. When you access the deepest core of your being, you will often find you already know the answer. You just might be too distracted or too afraid to trust it. Yeah, because you was taught not to lean on your intuition. Like I said, because the ones that were pushing you out into the world, they were hell bent on rationalization, like the rational mind, the gathering of data and facts. But your intuition, that's more of your natural instincts, because animals, they actually have natural instincts. That's how they're able, to hunt and gather and get the things they need in life. But the only difference between you and an animal is they live in survival mode. They never knew how to live outside of survival mode. And what makes you unique is because I'm not knocking the rational mind, because the rational mind is needed at sometimes, but it's not needed for the majority of the time. But that's what separates you from the animal mind, okay? Now, let me see. Here's questions you can ask yourself. Do you trust yourself or your instincts? Is it hard for you to ask or access your inner knowing because you are distracted by anxiety? Do you confuse your fear with feelings, causing you not to trust your instincts? Yeah. These are questions you can ask yourself. These are also questions I ask myself, when I'm dealing with the day-to-day life. But mostly today I've been leaning on my gut instincts because they had never steered me wrong. And I noticed that as I was growing up. In fact, I've been on that side of the fence more often in a rational mind because I was one who really didn't understand the mundane like everybody else. Like I'm a being of vibration and frequency and energy. So it's like my English ain't even, the norm of what they would call English there. I don't per se understand the English the way other people do it. And I realized that about myself, and I guess that's what made me unique in my own way. And I was fine with it, because it's okay to be able to accept yourself where you stand, so the High Priestess is the mistress of what lies beyond the veil. She is the keeper of your deepest wisdom. She challenges you to look past the thin shroud of your rationality and experience the deep sea of your inner knowing. She is crowned with the moon, and in its 3 phases, waxing, full, and waning. That means that the High Priestess has a bird eye view on things, because just like the birds have an aerial view of things, so does the moon. And being that it has those 3 phases, it means that she can see the beginning, the middle, and end. Just like a bird. So the High Priestess sees the bigger picture and knows the beginning, the middle, and the end. The High Priestess sits between 2 pillars, one black and white. This symbolizes that life answers are hardly ever black and white, meaning irrational. But the priestess positions are found somewhere in between. And let's talk about them in between, them tween hours. Most people don't know when, per se, like, you get a hermit mode card. That's basically telling you, it's time for you to cut everything off and focus on yourself for a while. Because now you're going into the between times, meaning the times where the High Priestess sits, your intuition, because now you're getting ready to learn the real truth. And the real truth doesn't necessarily mean that it's everybody's truth. It just means it's your truth. You're getting ready to learn a lot more about self. So you'll be able to maneuver the way you should have been maneuvering the whole time, instead of learn based off of learned behavior and a group or organization type of mindset. You're supposed to have your own mind. You're supposed to, like the magician, you're supposed to have control of your mind and the elements that's going on in your life. You're not supposed to give your willpower away on that. But, like, it's easier to do that today because they made it easier to do that today. And I'm not speaking of they as if they are separated from you and me. They're not separated from you and me. It's still the you and me. It's still a reflection of us. It's just that, basically that's where, you learn from your mistakes and your lessons, because those lessons are put there for a reason. And everybody, walking their own journey the way they do is for a reason, because it's here to teach you what you personally should be doing or should not be doing. You shouldn't, like, be so quick to follow the masses, because the masses ain't always right, but that's just my experience with it all. And another let me see, detail about it is the pillars are decorated. The pillars she sit between are decorated with the letters B and J. These are the initial for Boaz and Jachin, which were the names of the two entrance pillars to the ancient temple of the King of Solomon. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into all of that because I have not got that far yet. But I'm quite sure I get the same picture, the picture I need to get. It's just, I haven't went to go research the facts and the details, the rational part of it. But on an intuitive level, I do understand what they're saying. To me, intuitive level was just basically saying, just like the King of Solomon, she's another archetype for wisdom. Now, let's talk about the High Priestess a little bit more for a minute. First of all, you have people walking among us that are claiming the position of a High Priestess. Well, I'm laying out these details for you, and then you could decide who's a High Priestess in your life and who's not. So that's why we're dealing with this today. All right. This symbolizes her answers that are found beyond the anxious fear of death. Oh, hold on. I skipped a whole beat. Hold on. Let me go back. The High Priestess sits before the veil decorated with pomegranates, the fruit in the underworld. This symbolizes her answers are found beyond the anxious of fears of death and change. So, that's going back into when people start hollering, they see the 555, or when death cards start showing up in readings. Then that she's also found there too with your intuitive abilities. So you might want to pay attention to, that part of you when these things approach you, like death and, the fruits of the underworld, like dealing with different, per se, personalities or wounded egos, things of that nature. Always stick with your gut instinct. Your gut instinct ain't gonna let you down, especially in them times. To me personally, I know I have an ego. I acknowledge my ego. But I made peace with my ego. I brought my ego to the table to let my ego know, look, like, it's not the time. Like, I don't need you. Like, I'm not walking around here not, because at the end of the day, for me, as far as my experience and what I learned about the ego just wants to protect you, and it wants to make sure that that it's acknowledged and it's here. Just like any other thing that's calling for validation and attention wants acknowledgement. So look at the ego like that. The ego is not your enemy. It's just only here to get your attention and to protect you. But sometimes it could be chaotic and reckless, and it only gets like that when you find like you trying to fight against it like it's just an enemy of yours. But if you know about how a battery works, the battery works with positive and negative. So if you're not working with the positives and the negatives in your life, then you're not going to be, working. You're not going to get the flashlight to turn on. because you feel like you don't need your negative side, and you do, because that's going to be the very thing to keep you powered up as well. So it's, the ego is not evil. It's just, here to be used just like everything else about you. It's just all in how you, where you place your ego at. And for me, I only place my ego when I need it, and that's like if I was really needed to protect myself from something. Like if somebody was trying to put their hands on me or something like that. But other than that, I'm not saying I don't have an ego. I really have an ego. And my ego go to work and go to town when it's needed. Okay, so what else? Let me see. Peeking from beyond her veil is the vast sea of the unconscious. All the answers to your questions can be found in those primordial waters. Meaning your deepest emotions and feelings. Because that's what primordial waters is. Because that's where the intuition, tries to reach you the most as well. But, people get distracted easily. So, Now, that's, kind of the gist of the High Priestess in the upright. Let's talk about the High Priestess in the reverse if it shows up. If the High Priestess appears reversed, she asks you to notice any reoccurring signs or symbols you are receiving, because the High Priestess energy doesn't speak English. Like she will talk to you through a song, a dream, a billboard sign, or just a sign of certain people saying certain things to you or doing certain things around you, or she'll show up in numbers and things of that nature. I'm sure you get the point. The High Priestess is a teacher. She's alerts you to a lesson you are learning. When the High Priestess appears, she tells you that the issues you are experiencing are deeper than what they may appear at first. She also is calling your attention to the language of signs and symbols. Like an abstract painting, the High Priestess reverse asks you to examine the situation from different perspectives to understand it. Yeah, because you can't just stay on a rational and think you go get the big picture. You got to use your right and your left brain, but you have to have balance with it. Be centered. Okay, there is a deep wisdom to be gained from reoccurring signals. The High Priestess speaks in a language of picture, signs, and symbols. This language is not literal and cannot be understood by the rational mind alone. So trust your feelings to illuminate what the message is. There is nothing to fear when the High Priestess appears, upright or reverse. There is magic afoot. Yeah, because like I said, because she rests in the between hours or the between times or the times where it is time for you to be in solitude and away from everybody. That's where the real magic happens. So for people who feel like they constantly need to be around people and this and that, that can get unhealthy. That's why I like balance, because at the end of the day, if you are intaking a thing too much and have no balance with it, then it can harm you. It don't matter what it is, whether you a vegan, a meat eater, a person that does drugs or don't do drugs, a person who drinks or don't drink, a person who smokes cigarettes or don't smoke cigarettes, a person who loves sex and a person who really don't have sex. Like, if you don't find a balance in between all of this madness that's taking place down here, you still can get hurt. So the first thing you want to try to do before you try to rip something completely out your space is to try to fight, like deal with the shadow of it. Do the shadow work. And then find balance in it. And because you are setting off to do the work, you on a journey to do the work. You know what I'm saying? Then, the thing you call God or Jesus or the creator, whatever. Not Jesus, but Christ consciousness. The things that you hold to be a higher power within your own realm will be the very thing that will help you rid yourself of the things that no longer serve you. But you have to do the work. And the first parts of doing the work is getting with self, so you can not be in a place where you distracted, Or, once you do that part, now it's time for you to find balance and understand at the same time why you do the things you do. I mean, that's how I do it. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's the gist of the High Priestess in the reverse. So it's really not a bad card. And it's not really a title to behold. It's just the energy. And like I said in my last video, everything has energy in it. It don't matter what it is. With that being said, I'm getting back in my chill bag. I hope you enjoyed this and learned something, But like I said, I'm not no teacher. I'm just a messenger and I'm just sharing. Because that's what I do. So, you guys have a good evening. Say what you wanna. Cause I'm here to stay. Cause I'm a me no lie.